Clarissa. I'm going to speak about this talk will be about usability testing, and I'll be sharing my work on GNOME and how to run usability tests on your own. So I'll be sharing my screen now for you to have my slides. Wait a second. This talk will be about how to make more users love free software through usability testing, and I have some points to make before starting my presentation. English is not my sorry. English is not my native language, so I'd like to ask some patience in advance, because sometimes I'll make some mistakes, speak too slow, or struggle to remember some word. And this talk contains lots of my personal opinion and point of view about usability testing methods and results. I want to show you many possibilities about usability testing, and I want to share with you my own experience running usability tests on my work, my personal projects, and on GNOME programs as well. This talk, I didn't have much time to prepare for this talk, but I had this talk previously on LibrePlanet conference, so I'll be sharing about it. If you watch it before, feel free to join, because I'll make some different points there. So about me, I'm a Brazilian software engineering student at University of Brasilia, and I use free software since the beginning of my graduation. My concerns on learning about usability tests, specifically usability, of course, started when I was able to build complex software solutions, but I didn't know how to make people want to use my software. So I wanted to build software for people, but it was pointless if I couldn't figure out how to make it usable for people. So I started contributing to GNOME when I saw a usability research project on Outreach, and I had the chance of learning how to identify usability issues on designs and how to think about improvements to make. After my internship on Outreach, I continued to contribute to usability tests for GNOME, and I wanted to think about what could I do to help GNOME to have usability contributions more frequently. But I'll get to this point at the end of my presentation, I guess. So I'll start by, what is usability? Usability is an attribute, a qualitative attribute that represents the ease of use on interface to the user. So usability can be defined on some qualitative components, that is learnability, which is how easy it is to users to get their tasks done on the first time they meet a design. Efficiency, which is once the users understand the design, how fast they can accomplish their tasks. Memorability, which is when the users come back to use the design after a period without using, how easy can they reestablish the proficiency? I don't know if this word exists, but how easy can they manage to use the design again? And errors, that is actually how easy can the users recover from errors while they are using the design. And satisfaction, how pleasure the user have when they are using the design. So why usability? Usability is very important to make people want to use our software. As I mentioned before, I had trouble to build software that people actually enjoyed using my software. So usability is very important, especially talking about free software, because why would ever people choose to use priorities? Why would ever people try to want to use proprietary software when they have free software solutions? So let's talk about it deeper. Oh, sorry. I think I wouldn't be completely right if I said usability has not been a concern to free software products in general. But usability is not actually our strongest quality. Speaking of free software, in free software, most of the users end up being people who have more technological background, while average users they are stuck to proprietary solutions. And I believe this happens. I believe no. It's a general conclusion that this happens because there is a general impression that free software interfaces are weak since they are created by people with a higher technical level to other people with the same technical level. And if we want more users to use free software, and that those users are also average users, we need to put some more efforts on good usability. Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. Users, they just want to have their tasks complete, and they don't want to waste time trying to learn how to use the software. People don't insist on software that they struggle to use. And as I said before, why would anyone choose proprietary software over free software if free software had better usability? In this case, of course, I'm talking about software that have free options. And I'm not saying that free software hasn't been working on usability improvements. We can really see that the difference between now and some years ago. For example, in one of the initial versions of GNOME 1.4, the Sun Microsystems company invested in some usability tests on GNOME, and it turns out that in that version there were 5 clocks available in the interface. Like, they were not showing up clearly for the user, but there were 5 clocks that the user could find to tell the time. And in that time, they had 5 clocks, but they couldn't tell the time. Any user was able to tell the time. And I wasn't able to place a screenshot here, but I found the screenshot someone sent me after my last talk. I wanted to show you, but I didn't have time to put it here. And yeah, that's it. So GNOME had a usability group for several years from that time, and I guess they started on 2001, and they lasted about 10 years. And the work was really important to GNOME, and that's why GNOME is a very important reference to usability on open source nowadays. So how do we ensure good usability? we can ensure good usability by, first of all, building good designs and following guidelines, patterns, and good practice. But the most basic and useful method, I think, is running usability tests on our designs. It's very cheap to run usability tests and very easy. So I'll dive deeper into usability testing. What is usability testing? We say that we are testing usability by watching representative users trying to complete representative tasks on our designs. By running usability tests, we can not only discover issues on our designs, but more important than that, we can find out what were the causes of failures and work on improvement based on the results. There are some types of usability testing I want to share with you that are field observation, which consists in watching one or more users in the real context of work while they are using the software. The main advantage of this method is being able to keep track of all the needs and steps of the users in their routine, having, in theory, trustable use information. And yeah, I never ran this type of test because, in my opinion, it seems to be an invasive method, as you'll be watching the user the whole day. And for me, it doesn't seem like the user would behave naturally in their work, knowing that they are being observed. Even though if we just record a video of the screen, we would miss an important part of the user reacting while he's trying to work, and it would be still a little bit, I don't know, creepy for them to feel like they are being observed. And there is another important thing here on this method, that we would have to keep watching the user do something that we are expecting the whole day, and it would be very boring. Imagine if, I don't know, we spend the whole day waiting for the user to do what we are expecting, and we don't get, like, the user doesn't do it. No. And there is the other method, which is questionnaires. Doing questionnaires is about asking some questions to users about a product or a design, and they are very useful when you don't have resources to run in-person usability tests or when you want to have statistics. But it's important to remind you that we are used to think that quantitative information is always better. Like, the more results we have, the better. But sometimes it's not actually necessary, depending on what is your goal running usability tests. For example, if you want to find out if the users can save their work using your software, what will you do with the information that 145 users can do it? You'll probably be able to do something about it if you learn why they weren't able to complete the task. Okay, but what if I ask the user why he didn't complete the task? Well, maybe the user will lie, or he won't be sure about why he couldn't complete the task. And this doesn't mean the user will lie because he's evil or something like that. It's because when he finds out what he needed to do in order to complete the task, he may think, oh, so that was it. And then he makes it out as he knew, because he may think that it was his fault that he didn't realize the solution himself, and he doesn't think that it was the design's fault that made him not figure out what he needed to do. So we get biased information, and that's because he evaluates his own results. Thinking aloud is another method. This method is about observing the user performing tasks in the design and speaking aloud his thoughts. In my opinion, this is by far the best method, because we can create a controlled environment to watch the user interacting with the design. And I will refer to this method along the whole presentation. It has been the one that I most use. There is the eye tracking method, but I won't talk about it because I think it's an expensive method, and we can get similar or very close results to the previous method I mentioned. So I think it's not useful to mention it here. But there is another thing here that we can combine more than one method and do however we like to get the results. It's up to you. And there is one thing. Where can we run the tests? We don't have to run tests on implemented designs. And actually, the best situation is that we run tests before we implement the designs, because it's cheaper and faster to change a prototype than a working software. And besides that, it is recommended that we run usability tests on all designs before we start working. Before we start working on a new design. And testing usability in similar applications is recommended as well, to find issues and work on a better design with the help of those results. And we can run tests on paper prototypes to validate some design idea and work quickly on changes, and then test again and again. The test give us results about the information architecture, the structure, the task flow, and about the interaction design. And in this case, each paper in the prototype must represent a screen in the software. The design of the screens does not need to be perfect or something like that. It just needs to have significant components to make sure the users understand the functionalities. And the sketches of the screens can be handmade or be represented by digital drawings. And to run usability tests this way, it is required that someone reads the instructions and that someone simulates the behavior of the software by switching the papers as the user interacts. It's better to run with 2 people, but it works with only 1 person as well. And the tests can happen on a high fidelity prototype as well, or on released designs, of course. But what really matters is having a way of enabling the user interaction with the interface. So how do we run usability tests? That's where I wanted to go. I want to go faster because it seems like my time is running out. But let's see. I will share with you how to run usability tests on your own, but it doesn't mean this is the only way, but in my opinion, this is the perfect balance between doable, easy, cheap, and productive. This is my recipe. We have to decide which features we need to be tested to start improving the usability. And then we write a script to our test called tasks and scenarios. And after that, we prepare the test environment with what is needed. And we test our own test to see if it makes sense, if the user can get through the paths. And then we find out how many testers we'll need. We run the test with them, and finally we analyze the results. I'll dive into every step to show you how to do it, and that shows a test I ran some time ago in the files program, or Nautilus if you prefer, to illustrate the process. So let's go. This is a screenshot of the program before the test. It was running a application. It was a running application. It wasn't a prototype. And as far as I recall, this was a nightly version of the program that I installed using Flatpak. I don't know if it was ever released. I believe it wasn't. So let's get started. We start by the tasks. I skipped the part of deciding what needs to be tested because it's basically the goal of the test. So it is important to discuss with the design team what are the main areas and features that need to be evaluated to understand the needs. And the first step is already part of writing the tasks. So the tasks consist in direct instructions about what the user needs to do. And to write the task, it is required that you do a sort of inspection to be in the user's shoes and to think how the user would do and pay attention on where he would possibly have issues. So those were the tasks for the test on files that I ran, that were search for files, move files through folders, select all files, copy and paste files, create new folders, change the exhibition. And after the tasks, we write the scenarios. So based on the tasks, we rewrite the scenarios. And instead of writing task without no explanation, it's better to put the task inside a context where the user can imagine himself in the situation, giving a simple explanation about the reason why the user is doing the task. So this is the scenario I wrote based on the task for searching files. It's like you're telling the user a little story to simulate a real life situation. So yesterday you reorganized your files and you don't remember where you saved the copy of one of the articles you were working on. And please search for a file named The Hobbit. And after you write the scenarios, you have to prepare the test environment. And sometimes the test environment requires that you create a file, a folder, or populate the program to create a realistic situation. It is up to you what is required. So in this case, I had to create a text file called The Hobbit and place somewhere to see the user behaving. Like I had to hide the file so that he couldn't find it very easily, because I wanted the user to search for the file using the search tool. And then after that, you have to test your own test. You have to run, sorry, you have to run your own test to see if the script you created makes sense. And sometimes you even find out that there is a bug or something else in the or something inconsistency in the design before you test with the user. So yeah, you have to test your own test, meta testing. After that, you have to find out how many testers do you need. In my previous presentation in WADEC last year, I said 5 years were enough, but actually I figured out I can't say that because we often think that the more users, the better, but the less tests you run, the better for you to have more time to work on improvements and then test again. So when we test with too many testers, we end up having repeated information, and this doesn't help at all. So 5 testers has been a good number for me, but it depends on the it depends on the circumstances. Like sometimes you have you can have 10 testers giving relevant information, and sometimes you can have 3 testers giving enough information. So my recommendation is that when things start to be repetitive, it is better to stop running with new testers and work on results and improvements to run new tests when on the new design. And this way you save time and money, and yeah. Oh, and another thing about choosing your users, it is very important to choose representative users. So choose a profile that fit in the users that you want to reach with their software. Like for GNOME, I chose people who use computer, but they don't have background, technical background, like my parents or my family, some friends, etc. And finally, you run the tests. The execution of the test is by reading the instructions of the scenarios, and then you watch the user trying to run the tasks. During the tests, it's important that the user speaks aloud what he's thinking, like what is he looking for in the design, where is he looking for, and why is he taking some decisions. And the consequence of this is being able to know not only where the user couldn't find the option or where he could find, but also why he didn't complete the task. So if the user speaks, if the user doesn't speak enough, you can try to make him talk, asking questions while he performs the actions on the design. I'm watching the time, sorry. Oh, okay. So during the tests, it is necessary to be careful don't give tips about the answer. And like if the user asks you some question, you have to be careful so that you don't give the answer for him. And it is interesting to, at the end of each task, you ask the user to you ask some follow-up questions like why did you take the decision, how this option could be more clear for you if he couldn't do it, or if anything like that. What was his thoughts when he was trying to accomplish the task? And yeah. After that, you analyze the results. the results about the tasks. They are what went right, what went wrong, and what were the challenges of the users. And reporting the results after the tasks is very important to be something very clear for whoever is going to use it. If it's you, it's important because sometimes you may not remember everything that happened. And if it's not, if it's someone else, it's very important to be clear because if it's a design team that's working on the improvements, they have to clearly understand what happened during the task. So it's results that are not very clear. They may end up on like no one working on the result, or even worse, they work some way that is not, that makes the design even worse. I don't know, something like that. So it's very important. The most important part is to work on good results. So this was the result. This was actually I'll share with you the result of the task searching for files. There was this bar here, this top bar, where the user could see himself, like if he could see the path, like where he was. So when I asked the user to search for files, he tried to click on this top bar here instead of clicking the icon of searching. And then, yeah, the design team had to remove this thing that looked like a field to make clearer for the user that he had to click on the icon. It's like he thought that it was a browser or something like this. And yeah, it would be an interesting approach to search for files, I guess. But they removed this part here on the top. This is another way of summarizing the results. Like the green, each square here means a user, and the green means that the user could do the task, and the black that the user couldn't do the task at all. And I'll jump this part here. If anyone wants to know more about it, just email me and I can share more results. And for the conclusion, so I took this slide to talk about stuff that I may have forgotten during my speech, or something that I didn't emphasize enoughly, but I'm nervous. I can remember. So, okay, there are many tools to help us automating usability tests on our software. We can use some website to ask people to try a few things on our design and get a report about it. And we can even implement some log system to keep track about where the users are clicking. And we can open a channel for users to report usability users. But we'll miss the whole human point of usability testing. And usability is all about the interaction between the human and the machine. We learned that the best way to make our software speak the same language of the user is if we, the people who are developing the software, talk to our users. And having a facilitator to talk to the user and watch as he uses gives us many important information, and in my opinion, this is extremely necessary. It would be very nice if the developers ran usability tests on their own software. I think running usability tests on my projects was what has awakened me about the need of running usability tests on free software in general. I was a little bit skeptical about usability testing at first, but it was really fun to see the results. I encourage you to try to run some tests with your family and friends on your designs to see the results and understand really what I'm talking about. And something that people ask me about usability testing is that is if they can run usability tests on CLI programs. And yes, we can run usability tests. I've never had to do it, but I think the results will be a little bit different. And I think it's quite interesting to care if the commands and the flags of CLI programs are intuitive. We can run usability tests on chatbots as well. We can see if the conversation makes sense. And yeah, everything. You can run usability tests on every software product. Some other people ask me about remote testing. I think it works for some situations where you can instruct the user about preparing the environment, but there are many limitations. If you can do it in person, it's way better. And yeah, in conclusion, I'd like to open the space for questions, but I don't know if I'm able to do it. I don't know if I can see the channel or something else. I think I can't, but I'd like to if you want to reach me through my email or Twitter or our IRC channel, you can contact me to if you have questions. And yeah, those are my contacts. You can find me on those social media. And if you want to have resources to study about usability testing or anything else, I can help you. And yeah, that's it. I'd like to thank my friend Claudio for inviting me to give this talk. It was a little bit in a hurry, but I was able to share with you my thoughts. And thank you very much for watching me. And yeah, that's it. See you.